Welcome to the EntailAI podcast. Discussions with marketing executives sharing the latest techniques for growing their businesses online.
Think about it. If you're in a bar, right, and then the bartender like opens like a can of Coke, or like here in Europe, we have those like still like the glass bottles, and they look so good when they're cold and frosty. It's like, right? It makes you buy. Like for me, I don't want to buy a Coke if I see like a billboard of a Coke. But if a bartender, we're in a bar and it's just like 50 people in there, and the bartender in front of me opens it up and pours it, I want a Coke, right?
Yeah.
And now you want a Coke, eh?
Yeah, you made me think of Coke, definitely. Yeah.
So even though Coca-Cola is a big brand, the goals are different. One is brand awareness. We're doing the Christmas stuff, the polar bears, whatever is brand awareness is cute. People remember us. The other one is that nano influencer in the bar that's opening the Coke. That's going for the sale.
So I'm happy to have today Sandra Stepan. Hi, Sandra. Very nice to have you on board.
Hi, very nice to be here.
Maybe you can just tell us a bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So I'm a digital marketing and e-commerce expert. I essentially work with e-commerce brands that are looking to scale, and I help them scale profitably by diversifying where their sales and profits are coming from. And I usually do this by building more broadcast channels like Pinterest, social media marketing, and influencer marketing, and of course, email marketing as well. They're digital assets and systems for content creation on autopilot.
And when you say like more broadcast channels, you mean like you help them develop new marketing channels through different
Yeah.
social media
Yeah, that's
platforms?
exactly
Yeah.
it. So most brands, especially e-commerce brands, when they start getting some tractions and they start to scale a little bit, they usually rely on usually a couple different traffic sources, mainly Facebook ads, Google ads, and maybe they'll throw in some SEO, content marketing in there as well. However, we know that growth is not linear and scaling is not linear. And in an ideal world, we put in $1, get back five, we put in $10, get back 50. It doesn't quite happen like that once you scale. So, what we've seen over the years in working, first of all, as a brand owner, I own my e-commerce stores, my own e-commerce stores as well, and working with dozens of
Mhm.
e-commerce brands, is that when you start diversifying your traffic sources and your sales sources, and like I mentioned, building your broadcast channel, like whether that would be an email list or a text list or a social media digital asset, we see that conversions happen quicker, conversions happen cheaper, and when traffic comes from different places, a lot more sales happen.
Okay, that's interesting
Mhm.
because I mean we see also that now we see more and more brands shifting like bigger budgets into influencer marketing.
Yeah.
Like for some brands, it's like even over like 50%. I mean, if you
Yeah,
think back, probably like 5 years, it was almost entirely Facebook and Google, and now
exactly.
there's like bigger budgets going into influencer marketing. But do you see like from your experience in brands that you work with, do you see brands that are succeeding in building sustainable, like scalable channels, like getting significant traffic from social as well?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, I have to do it because I get paid to do it, so I have to make sure they're successful. But kidding aside, yes,
Mhm.
I do see it, and the way that I've seen it work the best is, um, so let's unpack social first. With social media has been getting a little bit of a bad rep over the last, 7, 10 years or so, because when social media is discussed, it doesn't really get a seat at the adults table. It usually sits at like the children's table. And social media a lot of times is
Mhm.
perceived as it was just posting, we're posting some content, it's just different branding, and that's it. Now lately, social media has been gaining a lot more traction, especially when it comes to user generated content, social media, or user generated content focused social media, because brands are really understanding that social media is not just a from me to you type of channel, right? So traditionally, social media was a lot of like, hey, we're this brand, here's who we are, here's what we do, here's the products that we sell, buy, buy,
Yeah.
buy. But social media has changed where it is a very intertwined channel of we are talking about ourselves, but we're also serving you, our customer, our follower, an Instagram user. We're also offering an amazing user experience or customer experience by answering your questions if you do want to buy from us. And then add in something like user generated content where social media users can see content created for your brand by influencers, micro influencers, and content creators has added something else in the mix that just makes social media so much more um, creative, more powerful, and brands can really leverage it for more money.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And do you think, well, so when brands now communicate with their audience, I mean, from what I can see, it feels like brands are now competing less with other brands, but more with influencers. Because
Yeah,
when they, like you're saying, it's not just that they need to put out content for branding. They need to communicate with their audience. They need to provide value, answer questions, etc.
yeah,
And in most cases, the traffic around, so let's say you're a brand that sells, I don't know, like orthopedic shoes, and you want to
mhm,
answer your audience questions about, if they have flat feet, or if they have foot pain or whatever.
yeah,
And it feels like most of those questions or most of those topics are covered by influencers rather than brands, because influencers can speak to their audience in a kind of like authentic way, like they're used to, like the content that they're used to getting now on TikTok and Instagram and so on. So,
exactly.
I mean, from what I can see, it seems like it is very challenging for brands to kind of like move away from that super high quality, more expensive, high
Hmm.
end content that
Hmm.
costs a lot, takes a lot of time to generate,
Yeah,
as opposed to just speaking authentically, eye level with your audience.
exactly.
So, how do you see brands solve that challenge?
Well, first of all, you nailed it with influencers talking to social media users like they are more authentic or like their peers. And just to backtrack a little bit because I liked what you said a lot. So right now, what you're competing against, you're right, you're competing against influencers, but more than that, you're competing for attention, right? So we used to say that the most important asset that you have as a brand, as a business person, as an entrepreneur is your time. But in reality, it's the attention. People have time. People binge watch Netflix
Mhm.
shows, right? Hours and hours and hours on end. I'm not saying I'm guilty,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that I'm not saying I'm not guilty either. So people do have the time. It's just about the attention, right? So where are they focusing their attention? Now, when it comes to influencers and content creators, they've done something really really brave but and really creative and really well, which was talking to their audience peer to peer from an authentic way, right? So especially during COVID, when everybody hopped on TikTok, everybody was just kind of like sharing their thoughts, their dances, their meals, their daily
Hmm.
routines, and people are all of a sudden hopping on TikTok and they're talking to their audience in an authentic way. They're not even putting makeup on. They're just kind of like letting words out without a filter, and their audience started to like that, right? So in comparison, just like you mentioned, switching from that almost like a corporate stiffness where we are, we have processes after processes of like content design, content creation. I know for myself too, when I'm working with brands, right, our content creation has to start with, well, this is the company's branding guidelines, and these are the themes and the topics that we agreed on, and everything has to go to the designer, and then everything has to be checked and so on, and it just almost becomes like it is pre-planned, and it shows that it's pre-planned. And I think that audiences and social media users, they're just not into that anymore because they don't feel like they're at the same level. They still feel like it's that from me to you. So you asked me, how do you think brands can overcome this challenge? I actually think embracing content creators and influencers and working with them instead of trying to compete against them. Because if you're trying to compete against someone who goes on camera whenever they feel like it, whenever there's something relevant in the news or whenever there's a new trend, and they don't have to wait for
Hmm.
those extra processes of approval from the CMO, the marketing manager, and
Yeah.
so on, and they can just hop on right away and catch on that trend, they're going to win, right? And then these influencers, they have created already an audience that likes them and likes the content they create and likes them for them. So instead of trying to compete with them, don't do that anymore as a brand. I would say embrace it. Work with influencers, develop influencer partnerships, see how you can collaborate so that you can also leverage that influencer's audience that can also be your
Hmm.
audience. I think that's the key.
Okay. And 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 you see brands adopting that strategy, or is it now
Absolutely.
something? Yeah, like more and more brands
Absolutely.
are moving into this.
Yes. So w- last week there was like a huge campaign. Last week or 2 weeks ago, there's a huge campaign from the Stanley Cups. You know, the Stanley Cups, it's kind of like a mug, like a mug that like a lot of
Okay.
influencers use, and it has like a straw, and then you always see those influencers like the straw in the mug, and then drinking their water, their juice, their detox, whatever. So,
Hmm.
brilliant campaign. There was this TikToker who I think she was an influencer already, and her car burned down. There was a fire, her car burned down, and then she opened the door, and the only thing left standing in that car was a Stanley Cup. And in the comments, people are like, "Oh, like." I think it was like, is your coffee still like, or is your, I don't know, I don't forget the question. It was something like, is your juice still cold or is your coffee still warm? And then she started
Yeah.
creating all these series of videos from those comments, right? Because on TikTok, you can take comments and basically turn them into like a response
Hmm.
video. Anyway, and she started creating all these videos based on that one like seed comment of like, can you still use your Stanley Cup? So she's like, oh yeah, like people, and she's taking more photos of her burned down car. Like literally, the car was black. It was like almost like down to ash. And she's like, people are asking me if I can still drink my Stanley Cup. And she made a series of videos. So then I think it was the president or the CEO, someone like some C-level person at Stanley Cup, they actually went on and on like live, and they said they are going to buy her a new car. So that was a brilliant campaign because they're spending like $30,000 on a car, but that video got millions and millions and millions of views. So if you think about a brand, how much would they spend to be seen by millions of people, right? So think about all the
Yeah.
brands that sponsor sports events. Like, we just watched ATP and we watched Novak Djokovic, and like there's all of these like brands that you always see there, like Rolex, for instance. Think about the money, the millions they spend to be seen in those places versus
Yeah.
Stanley Cup. Not only they gained good graces with their audience, but they spent 30 grand on a new car for this one influencer, and they got millions of views, which is
Yeah.
brilliant response.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. But do you think brands should go? I mean, first of all, you see, I feel like we're having a conversation about influencers. It's super interesting, so I don't mind like shifting
Yeah,
into this because you also said it's
sure,
like more, you feel more comfortable there. So and it's
sure.
it like the conversation flowed, so I'm going with it.
Sounds like a plan.
Um, yeah, but so do you think brands in terms of their like how they work with influencers and kind of like how they build a strategy? Should it be like should they look for those like viral ideas or things that can really go viral, or should they look for to build long lasting partnerships with influencers?
I'm always I'm always a fan of long-lasting partnerships. I think the viral pieces are great, but you also have to be, first of all, a known brand, a quite large B2C brand in order to go viral. But I do think that brands should build, first of all, should build longer term relationships with influencers, but also they should build a proper strategy. So one of there are a few reasons why influencer marketing doesn't work, and over the last few years when I have had conversations with brands, perhaps interested in doing some sort of influencer partnerships, the kind of responses that I hear is, well, we tried, like we sent some products to the influencer, but they never posted, or we never got sales, or they just didn't fit us. Like their audience is not the same as ours. So what I've seen is that when an influencer partnership doesn't work out, it's usually because one or multiple reasons. So first one being you did not set up a target or a goal for your influencer partnership, right? So if you're a brand and you are looking to engage an influencer and then you complain that you're not making sales, as a brand, did you make sure that you chose, first of all, an influencer that can make you sale? Because that has to be quite a big influencer that makes you sales and not just someone that creates content. Second of all, did you pay that influencer enough for them to be motivated to make you sales, right? And to like broadcast you on all the channels? Did you set up your tracking and analytics in place to make sure that you're tracking all those sales? So it all starts with your targets and your goals. Then it goes to the budget. Then it goes to the influencer that you pick, right? So if you're not picking an influencer whose audience really aligns with yours, you're not going to have traction, right? Because I can
Yeah.
come in and talk about digital marketing and influencer marketing to you because we're working with brands that are interested in this type of content. But if I take my marketing content to someone who's not in marketing or not interested in marketing, it's irrelevant to them, then it just doesn't make sense, right? So I shouldn't go on and talk about
Yeah.
marketing on like a fashion B2C brand because their audience doesn't care about marketing, they care about fashion. So making sure that you
Yeah.
select influencers whose audience aligns with yours. So start with your targets, go into your budget, go with the influencers that align with you, and making sure that your offer is relevant to their audience, and then set up those tracking and analytics tools in place. Now, there's other things that you can do as a brand to make sure that your influencer marketing becomes successful. So things like negotiating, right? So don't just rely on tools. There's a lot of tools right now that you can use to curate influencers, find influencers, look at their
Hmm.
followers, look at their stats in general, but also add that human touch where you're reaching out and you say, hey, my name is Sandra. I come from brand XYZ. We're looking for brand ambassadors. Are you open to doing a partnership, right? So like, don't try to like sell yourself too much. Just start a conversation and then just feel it out and see how that influencer feels about it. But then when it comes to actually doing a deal with an influencer, have a proper like structure in place, right? So influencer marketing should get the same respect as your other campaigns, like your ads, for instance, where you have a contract, you have the budget, you negotiate, and everything is in writing. So it's not an expectation anymore, but it is a well planned and thought out system that involves an
Hmm.
agreement, a contract, and a follow up. And then track and monitor and see which influencers work the best for you, and then develop those relationships like that in a human fashion. Use the tools to curate, use the tools to do your initial research, but then switch that human relationship building so you can build those long-term relationships.
Okay.
Now I realize
And
that was a very long answer, but influencer marketing is it's simple, but it does take some work to deliver.
yeah, no, I'm quite sure. I mean, I'm quite sure. On one hand, it's simple, but then there's like so many different things you can get wrong. Like you say,
Yeah.
like target the wrong audience, not negotiate right, and so on.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, it seems to me like one of the biggest challenges is like finding the right influencers and communicating with them,
Yeah.
like reaching out to them, getting them to start talking to you. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're trying to reach like a big influencer with a lot of followers, how do you do that? Do you use influencer marketplaces, or do
Yeah.
you reach out to them directly on their profiles? What do you recommend?
I usually recommend using some sort of an influencer marketing tool. So there are tons of influencer marketing tools, right? So you can go with something like Grin, Modash. There's tons. If you Google influencer marketing tools, you can probably find 100. That would be a good
Mhm.
like a good start. You don't have to vet
Yeah.
100, but I would say yes. So first of all, also depends on the kind of influencer that you're looking for, right? So if you're looking for like a mega influencer, if you're looking for like a celebrity, then what they typically have their media information in their profile. If you're looking at Instagram or Facebook, or on their website, they would have like a contact form. And typically, a mega influencer will have someone managing them, whether that is an agency or an agent. And then you get in touch with the agent, and an agent will negotiate on their behalf. Now, if you're looking at regular
Hmm.
influencers, so macro influencers, for instance, that and macro and all the influencers, the way they're defined, sometimes a little bit fluid, but like a micro influencer, I would consider someone at like 10,000 to 50,000. A macro influencer, I would consider someone that has at least 100,000 followers, but if they have over a million, I will call them like a mega influencer. For a macro influencer, they would either, again, have the details in their website or Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, or they will be listed on influencer marketing platforms. So I would use an influencer marketing platform to find them and then get in touch with them. Now, you said that you feel like it's hard to communicate with influencers. I think sometimes what I see a little bit too often is brands trying to pour it all in one message, right? So instead of saying, hey, Sandra, are you, interested in, this is who I am, this is my brand. Are you open or are you available for new partnerships? That's get the conversation started and then sell yourself. Sometimes what we find is we
Hmm.
see a lot of those messages that are sent in mass that say, hey, we love your profile. We think you'd be perfect for blah, blah, blah. And it's like a long message that nobody wants to read, right? So give them the
Yeah.
chance to look at your profile and see what you're all about, and then have a conversation with them. Um, Grab their attention, right? So engage with their content, engage with their videos, engage with their posts, and like, and also, by the way, um, reaching out to influencers will probably result in 1 in 5 or 1 in 10 actually replying to you
Okay.
if you reach out manually.
And
So that's
yeah.
right. Depends on how busy they are, depends on how popular they are. Sometimes they don't see your message. But if you use like an influencer marketing tool, you have a higher chance of reaching them, because they are on that platform for a reason and they are open to receiving inquiries.
And
Hmm.
can you give? I mean, I know it's a very general question. Like I'm thinking about many brands are worried about how much it costs, and so basically pricing, which is like to us like how much does a car cost. So I know that it really
Yeah.
varies, but are there like really like benchmarks? I mean, like micro influencers or
Mhm.
like mid range or like can you say anything about that? Like
Yeah.
how much should brands pay for that, or how to calculate that?
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes to developing a budget for your influencer marketing, I would always say go back into your margins, right? So what you would pay for an ad, for instance, or to acquire a new customer through an ad, that's pretty much what you could say you can spend on an influencer. Also think about the added, good side effects of like doing influencer marketing, right? So getting that one sale is great, but then also make sure you're getting the content, you're getting the mentions, you're getting the followers, you continue building your email list. So there's like an added, like a secondary benefit to it. When it comes to cost benchmarks, you can even do it for free, by the way. So you can still do influencer marketing. I would call it more like content creator marketing, not necessarily influencer marketing. So for a nano
Hmm.
influencer that has less than 10,000 followers, you could actually score some agreements for products only. So you can just send them products and you can ask them to create content. They can give you a shout out. They can tag in their posts, and sometimes nano influencers may even be more beneficial for your brand than micro influencers, right? Or sorry, or macro influencers, because especially if you're a brand that hasn't done influencer marketing, or you're a brand that's still scaling, you don't know what works for you. So spending a lot of money on an influencer campaign may not make sense. It may make more sense to go with a nano influencer, get them to create content and see what kind of content your audience responds to best. Now, if you're looking at a
Hmm.
micro influencer, so anywhere from like 10,000 to 50,000 followers, expect to pay anywhere between like $500 to maybe $2,000 per post. For a macro influencer, so if you're looking at someone that has like, let's say, 100,000 followers, it can be quite a few $1,000s per post. It can be to 3,000 and up. And depends on their level of
Mhm.
engagement. You may even have to spend about 10K. If you're looking at someone that has like a few 100,000 followers, you spend 10K, 20K, 30K. And then someone that has like someone that's a celebrity, they will do deals that cost, they can cost six figures. So
Yeah.
when you're looking at actually driving sales directly from influencer marketing, it will be thousands. That's what I've learned. If you're looking to drive mostly content, it can be as little as just product up to like $1,000.
Yeah. And so let's say so you close a deal with an influencer, you pay them for their post. Um, how, I mean, do you need to agree on terms in advance in terms of can you use their content as well? Like, can you post their content on your social media? Can you use it for your paid ads? What's the fair use you can do with the content that they created?
Yeah. So first of all, you want to have all of those details really set in stone in an agreement before you pay the influencer and before they start creating content. So when you are negotiating with the influencer, let's say I want you to create some content for me. I say, okay, cool. So I am going to pay you $1,000. I'm going to send you some product, and I want you to create at least one TikTok video, an Instagram reel, and maybe an Instagram story. I'm going to give you maybe some information about my brand because I want you to have your own flair. You're an influencer for a reason, and people like you, users like you for a reason. However, there are some important key items that I want you to mention in your mention about my brand. And perhaps I may even send you a mood board to kind of show you like what kind of content I think would be best if you're not already a seasoned influencer. And then I will put it in that agreement or contract. I will say it in writing that I have the rights to the content and that I can use the content without any additional liabilities on your end. I can use the content for anything that I feel like it's a fit. So that can be anything from ad creatives to TikTok, Pinterest, Instagram, all of
Mhm.
our social media or digital assets. Not every influencer will allow you to do that, and some influencers will ask you to pay extra for that. So be careful with that side of influencer deals as well.
So it seems like doing a deal with influencers, like getting the details right, is a kind of an art, and it's a skill that
Yeah.
you need to learn.
Hmm.
Do you feel like once you get the hang of it, so once you learn how to do a deal with influencers, is it something that basically it's kind of like cookie cutter? You learned once and it works always, or does it need like a lot of like tweaks and customizations between influencers?
No, I think you can do a cookie cutter. I think you can definitely kind of like assembly line it and just find your flow, find what works for you, find what kind of influencers work for you, and you can develop a system where it's literally like a Kanban. We're doing our research, we're contacting influencers, we're negotiating, we're tracking the content, and we're rinse and repeat. These are good for the future, or let's move along. So absolutely, you can create a repeatable system with it.
And what about checking? You mentioned before, like making sure that the audience is right.
Hmm.
If you're like starting to work with an influencer, if you're building a partnership, you want to make sure that they target also your target audience. And I mean, some of them may have like a lot of followers, so
Yeah.
maybe only a certain percentage of their followers is relevant to you.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? How do you kind of like check that in advance?
Yeah. So with an influencer marketing tool, you actually have the capability to check whether or not your influencer's audience is a good fit for you. So most tools will give you, in their paid subscription, usually will give you, so in the free subscription, they will give you information like here's the influencer, here's how many followers they have on each platform, and here's like a very quick snapshot of, how many fake followers they have, where they're located, and so on. Usually if you pay for their plan, so you will see information around what kind of hashtags they use, what kind of things they talk about, and where their audience lives, audience demographics, audience what their audience talks about. So you can take all of that data and then you can use it in your decision making. So For that, I would say use an influence marketing tool. Now, if you're doing just content creation and you're just looking at content creators and want some nano influencers just to kind of get things going, maybe I want to have a system, that is not necessarily as important for you because you're looking at content creation, and you can just kind of use a tool in its most inexpensive form, just to look at an influencer, how many followers they have, and just a snapshot of their followers, and just make sure that their style aligns with yours. But when you're starting to pay influencers, use a tool to look at their information and at their follower data. It's never 100% accurate, obviously, but it is more accurate than you just kind of having a look on Instagram and seeing if if you think the influencer will be a good fit for you. A tool will give you that information a lot more accurately.
Okay.
And also,
Um,
I know you were just about to say something. I was going to say, once you're in conversation with an influencer, ask them for snapshots of their
mhm.
audience, right? So they can go into their Instagram insights and show you exactly where their audience is located, what their audience demographics are, and like how many impressions they have, and then that can give you a good idea of whether or not that influencer's audience is a fit for you.
Okay, so that's an important tip. So you're saying basically before you start to work with an influencer, to get a glimpse of their own analytics, to
Yes,
know, like, to get to see their own data, not just from the tools that give you
exactly.
kind of like estimated data, but to see their
Yes.
real data.
Exactly, exactly. And an
Okay.
influencer that is there to do business, they will do that for you. If they're trying to hide that from you, that is a huge red flag. It means that they're either not interested in this partnership, or they have something to hide, and maybe they're not as truthful as you thought they would be about their audience and about their success with their influencership. So it's a bit of a red flag. So once you're in negotiations, ask them to
Hmm.
just send you a snapshot of their audience, of their own analytics.
Okay. Yeah, that seems really valuable. I mean, that's something you definitely need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I saw that also. I mean, we're more in SEO, but I saw it also, like, we had a client asking us, so they were like a Shopify app. They are a Shopify
Yeah.
app, and they wanted to be featured on a website that asked them, like, I don't know, like, I don't remember how much, but thousands of dollars just to be on a list of the best apps. And
Yeah.
I told them, the basic thing is just to ask them for like a screenshot of their analytics to see how much traffic this page gets, and also maybe, if
Exactly.
possible, to see what
Exactly.
kind of searches, what kind of organic traffic and searches go to this page, so you
Yeah.
can see whether there's really like conversion potential there or not.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's important. Um,
Yeah.
do you think also, I mean, so influencer marketing can get quite expensive as well, because if just kind of like small influencers will take about, it will start from around
Mm-hmm.
$500 per post. And if you want to do that at scale and want to work with multiple influencers, it can get quite expensive, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, do you think there's also brands looking to create their own content? Because we touched on that in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but do you think there's like certain activities that brands can do in-house to kind of like build their own brand equity, turn their brand into an influencer, kind of like
Absolutely.
maybe hire people that can create authentic content, influencer like content in-house, that's not just too
Absolutely.
directed or too, like, doesn't look like directed video, but just like authentic UGC?
Yeah. Yes, I absolutely think so. So actually, one of my favorite things to do when I start working with a brand that is looking to diversify their content and their traffic sources is to set up a system to get their own customers to create content. Because who is better than creating content for you than the customers that
Hmm.
have purchased from you, right? So if you're a brand and you're selling products, especially in the B2C space, but B2B as well, but if you're a brand and you're selling products and you have repeated sales, especially, set up a system to get your customers to create content. One of the easiest things that I've done for brands was set up a like a little physical insert in the packages. So when the packages have multiple layers, let's say there's like a box and tissue, before they even
Hmm.
open that actual product, we would have like an insert that would say, stop there, read the back of this first, and then we will say, thank you so much for your purchase. You've made our day. We hope, our product will make your day. By the way, do you want to win a free whatever product it is? We will set up maybe like a monthly draw, and we would say, snap a photo or a video of you wearing this product, upload it on Instagram, tag us, and you automatically enter to uh, to win whatever gift card,
Yeah.
whatever we have set up. Or you can give them like a 10% off or 20% off, whatever makes sense for you as a brand to give as a little bit of incentive. So that would be one of the ways. And then the second way would be to have, in your post purchase email marketing flow, have one email that is geared towards that. Hey, Sandra, we're so happy you bought from us. By the way, do you want to score a free product, or do you want like a discount for your next purchase? Take a photo of this product and upload it to Instagram, enter for a chance to be featured and tag us. So
Mhm.
creating content on autopilot is actually easier than it's easier than you think it is, especially if you have that volume of sales. So I will set up automated processes to get your customers to create content. So that's one thing you can do. And the other thing you can do is, like you said, you can hire content creators to create content for you that is authentic, that feels natural, feels real. Right? So if I have a product
Mhm.
brand, and let's say my product is, I don't know, it can be beauty. Like let's say it's lipstick, right? I want to like promote this pink lipstick. Find influencers or content creators that are not necessarily in beauty, but maybe they are in, maybe they're in other niches, right? And super trendy right now is videos where people are talking and they're doing their makeup, and people are asking them, hey, where's your lipstick from, where's your mascara from, where's your top, your necklace, or whatever from. So you can incorporate products. It's kind of like product placement, like you used to see in movies, right, back in the
Mhm.
90s. It's kind of like product placement, but in like TikTok
Mhm.
videos or Instagram videos. So you can do that as well. And you can create content with experts in different fields. Like, I know a company that does that. uh, that enables you to hire experts in different fields to create content for you, so that you get that reach. You're broadcasting your message, you're broadcasting your keywords, but you don't have to do the actual heavy lifting in house, and you can hire experts to do that.
Yeah, I mean, our model, by the way. So, I mean, you've been here a few times, so you know. But it is really about that. It is really about. So sometimes it applies more to B2B, or it definitely applies to companies where their audience is looking for information or
Yeah,
educational information. So
yeah,
any company that sells products in health, or like I said, most of the B2B companies,
and SaaS.
not
Yeah,
fashion or jewelry or anything like that, where it's more about just about models. But I mean, for most companies, what happens is their audience is looking for information, and
yeah,
to get that information from within the company,
yes,
it's very difficult, because you would need to have the executives busy in that process, and that
yeah,
would make it it would be very difficult to get like ROI positive on that. And so you find many other experts who are
yeah,
happy to share their expertise and get the exposure
exactly,
as well, and
exactly.
it's kind of like a win-win for both sides. Yeah.
No, I agree, because and sometimes the executives of that company, they're actually not the best suited people to be on camera, right? Whether that's because they don't go on podcasts or expert interviews too often, or maybe
Hmm.
they haven't done the system in depth enough to go and talk about it, versus someone that lives and breathes, right? So, like, if we're talking about influencer marketing, I can sit here and talk about influencer marketing all night. Someone that's built, I have met, some of the businesses that I work with, they've built businesses of 20-30 million dollars a year. They have never reached out to an influencer. The executive has never reached out to an influencer, right? So you may think that the CEO or
Yeah.
the president of a 30 million a year company would be great, great to have on camera and talk about that, subject matter expertise. But in reality, they may not be the right person, because they are involved in so many other activities in the company that they can go into the depth that you will need in order to rank for those keywords, in order to have your message and your information broadcasted to a point where it gets the traffic, and it gets the sales, and it gets the meetings, and it gets the demos.
Hmm. And so just back to the beginning, just one of the previous like questions from the beginning, having spoken so much about influencer marketing now, what do you feel like in terms of e-commerce marketing budget?
Hmm.
Like an average company these days, like what is the percentage that they spend from their marketing budget, the percentage that they spend on influencer marketing
On
today?
influencer
And do you
marketing.
think it's going to increase over the next years?
Yeah, I think influence marketing is going to increase. I don't have the numbers out of the top of my head. I know that I've done research on this, but like you mentioned, there are brands right now that are spending as much as 50% of their marketing budget on influencer marketing. I would say right now is still pretty low. I would say from my research, most of the companies that are doing influencer marketing, out of their total marketing budgets, they're spending maybe 10 to 20% on influencer. Most companies are spending like
Hmm.
under 10% on influencer, but those are companies that are, they're not doing influencer marketing. They're not doing a lot of other good things in marketing. But the ones that are spending probably between 10 and 20%, I can definitely see brands moving towards 50% of their marketing budget being some sort of content creation or influencer marketing in the next few years. It's because people trust other people's opinion a lot more than they trust brands' opinions. So even though
Hmm.
social media users, they know influencers are paid to talk about a product, they still trust them more than they trust ads by brands. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's something like
Yeah.
80% of millennials, I think, trust influencers' opinions over a brand's opinion.
Yeah, I think that's something that really needs to resonate with a lot of brands, because I think
Yeah.
that's super important, um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the brands that are saying, "Oh, influencer marketing doesn't work," I think that's the same. That's the same vibe and energy that I used to see from brands like 4 or 5 years ago when they said Facebook ads don't work. It's like, what do you mean Facebook ads
Yeah.
don't work? Like you just haven't figured out how to run campaigns. You haven't optimized your funnel. You haven't worked on your landing page. It's like you can't just say Facebook ads don't work. Like Facebook ads don't work by themselves. Like you have to enable them to work, right? So I feel like with influencer marketing, it's a little bit, I'm getting the same like energy from the brands that are saying influencer marketing doesn't work. Well, it won't work when you're just sending some products to influencers and you're expecting miracles. It will work when it's an integrated system, a well thought out system. You are doing your research, you are planning it out, and you're talking to the right influencers. Maybe influencer marketing is still a bit more subjective than something like Facebook ads, for instance, where Facebook ads is the machine. It's more, it's more like systemized, but influencer marketing can be a little bit more fluid
Mhm.
because every influencer is different. Maybe that's the problem, but influencer marketing does work.
Yeah, I've also seen a trend with some of our clients where they say that instead of working with large influencers, I mean influencers with a lot of followers, they see that they're getting better results with smaller influencers with more
Hmm.
engaged, kind of like more
Yes.
intimate
Yes.
community around them.
Hmm.
So they're getting
Yeah.
better results. Is that something you've experienced? Do you think that, by the way, that this depends on the market you're in? Like, for example, if you're like in fashion, then maybe whatever, it's like, I don't know, you're selling clothes, like women's clothes, and you reach Rihanna, I mean, like a huge
Hmm.
celebrity, then you're probably going to generate a lot of sales. But what I've seen is with brands who sell, for example, like period and fertility trackers for women, where it's
Hmm.
more like probably like an intimate subject. So
Yeah.
smaller influencers with like I said, more closer communities and
Yeah.
so on. This is where they're getting better results as opposed to larger influencers. So do you
Yeah.
think that has to do with the type of product that you're selling, or would that work across all industries?
I personally think it would work across all industries. I've experienced that as well. I think going for the smaller influencers with the more intimate community works better because they usually have more engagement, usually found a niche, and they know their audience well enough to broadcast the right message. I think that the bigger influencers, if you want to do a partnership with the bigger influencers, I think it also depends on your goals, right? So when you are even a company, let's say like Coca-Cola, right? So everybody knows Coca-Cola. They don't need to have ads in order to sell their product. However, we all
Mhm.
know the Coca-Cola ads during Christmas time, right? So with the polar bears and the Santa, and like I grew up with those, and they're just like
Yeah.
warm and fuzzy. You also see, you don't see Mercedes too much advertising. You may see Mercedes sponsoring, right? So again, I just watched ATP tournament tennis. So then when you're looking at who sponsors that, it's usually Rolex, right? So again, Rolex doesn't need you to see an ad on Facebook in order to buy, right? So if you are a big brand and you're looking to maintain your status, you're looking for that brand awareness, you want to remind your community, your followers, you want to remind buyers that you are the big boss, you're the
Mhm.
big wolf, then you want to go for those big strategic partnerships, right? Because you want to be associated with them. As a small brand, having Rihanna talk about you, absolutely. But I've also seen, by the way, I have seen small brands endorsed by Oprah that were not successful because it was not sustainable. It's like a
Mhm.
once type of deal, and like for a few months they had
Yeah.
sales, but then they haven't structured everything else enough to be able to sustain that, right? So I have seen that exact case scenario where it was endorsed by Oprah and it was like, shut up, and then went back down. Now, you're a big brand, you have the status, you want to be associated with Rihanna, very different thing, right? But if you're looking for reaching reaching your audience with deeper messages, going for those sales, absolutely the smaller influencers will work better for you. Even Coca-Cola, think about it. If you're in a bar, right, and then the bartender like opens like a can of Coke, or like here in Europe we have those like still like the glass bottles, and they look so good when they're cold and they're
Mhm.
frosty. It's like right, it makes you buy. Like for me, I don't want to buy a Coke if I see like a billboard of a Coke. But if a bartender, we're in a bar and it's just like 50 people in there, and the bartender in front of me opens it up and pours it, I want a Coke, right? So even though Coca-Cola is a big
Yeah.
brand, the goals are different. One is brand awareness. We're doing the Christmas stuff, the polar bears, whatever is brand awareness is cute. People remember us. The other one is that nano influencer in the bar that's opening the Coke. That's going for the sale, right? So I think it can go across all industries. I think it really depends more on your goals and the type of business and the type of partnership you want. And now
Okay.
you want a Coke, eh?
Okay. So yeah, yeah, you made me think of Coke, definitely. Yeah. Um, so I mean, just kind of, we're almost done. Like it's almost 8 o'clock here. So um, just to know, like, how you personally like how do you recommend, or what do you recommend your clients? I mean, do you push them towards influencer marketing, or does it? I mean, does it have to do with the type of client or where they're at in like how big their business is, or how do you usually recommend this to clients, like working with influencers?
Yeah, so I usually look at where they're at with their sales, what stage they're at, because a startup and someone who's just scaling, or someone that has scaled and that they're looking to diversify or create more strategic partnerships, will have different needs. Typically, what I see
Mhm.
is brands not doing enough influencer partnerships. So, what I like to do is I like to start a little bit smaller. Where if it's let's say a medium sized brand, like a brand that has some success, they're selling through Facebook or Google ads, or if it's a B2B company, they're doing their own outreach. um, I like to do a blend of content creators and influencers, because I want to show them first how to create a system, what they can expect, the kind of work that is involved, and then that kind of aligns the expectations and aligns the workflow. And then get them to see the content created by these nano influencers, or yeah, non nano content creators for the purpose of content creation, and then the difference with the ones
Mhm.
that we pay. I typically will not jump into a even like a macro influencer of like 500,000 followers unless they've done influencer marketing before, right? Because I need to see what kind of influencer marketing they've done before and what kind of campaigns have worked for them. It's the same as running a Facebook ad, right? So if I'm starting Facebook ads for a company, I'm not going to go with a budget of $100,000 a month unless they're already doing that and I'm optimizing it, right? But if they are doing
Mhm.
10K a month in ads, then I'm going to keep it at 10 to 30K for now and then scale from there. So I look at where they are, what their needs are, and I try to start a little bit smaller, prove the concept for them, and then have that repeatable system, and then just scale from there.
Okay, I mean that was super interesting for me. I mean, we're not I haven't done any influencer marketing, so I only
There
hear
you go.
about it from clients.
There you go.
So yeah, so it's very nice to hear like firsthand from you. Is there anything else you'd like to say or add or anything like that at all?
Other than give it a try, I would say for any brand, honestly, some sort of an influencer marketing, content creator marketing can work for anybody, whether you're B2B, B2C, SaaS product, service. I think just having someone endorse you and talk about your product or your service and getting that content created on autopilot is such a valuable tool to have in a marketing toolbox. Try it out.